My first guest tonight and my newsmaker is Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who has been a counsel for Manish Sisodia, appeared for him in the Supreme Court. Dr. Singhvi, without going into the specifics of the case, would you broadly agree that with Manish Sisodia not getting bail today from the Supreme Court as you sought, he's in possibly for the long haul? These are serious Prevention of Corruption Act charges, and therefore Manish Sisodia could now have an extended term in prison.
First of all, Rajdeep, I speak here as a counsel for him. I'm not speaking politically at all. There are larger issues of the political system which can be discussed. But as far as your question is concerned, I don't think any such inevitability must be presumed. The court has only told us that the correct forum at the first stage is to go to the lower court. That's about it. There is no observation on the merits. There is no denial of bail as is being repeatedly wrongly reported by the media, which somehow tends to take frequently a superficial view of court orders. It is that, and there is substance in that you cannot approach the Supreme Court straight away.
No, that's exactly. No, let's be very clear. You're blaming the media. The media is reporting that you went to the Supreme Court seeking relief for your client. The Supreme Court said, you don't come to us, go to the High Court. I mean,
that's right.
You know, clearly, and what the court was saying, that this was not a fit case to come at ab initio, at the initial stage, to the Supreme Court.
That's exactly what I'm saying, Rajdeep.
So that's a setback.
It's a denial. It's not a denial of merits. It is a decision that the correct forum, understandably, is the lower court. We also understand that it is in exceptional cases that the court can interfere. And they felt that this is not an exceptional case of the category which merits a direct intervention. So it was a decision on forum, where, not a decision on what. But to answer your larger question, I think you have the ladder from the trial court to the High Court, and there is no reason to suppose, if the merits of the case are strong as we believe it is, that he should be denied bail indefinitely.
No, but why is it an exceptional case, given the fact that the CBI claims that they are building a chain linking Manish Sisodia as Deputy Chief Minister, policy decisions taken by his government, to alleged kickbacks that were received? Why should that be treated as an exceptional case? Should he not be able to first lay out a strong case to explain? The CBI says that they've got this link that they've established between retailers in Telangana and the Delhi government. Now,
you see, if you want to ask me the arguments raised, they are the following 6 arguments, which have a lot of merit, but they will be decided by a different court. The first is that there are judgments, like Vinod Dua's case, to an extent like Arnab Goswami's case, where direct interventions by the Supreme Court have been entertained. In particular, Vinod Dua's case. That was cited, that was read. But the court felt that it might open the floodgates if you start hearing every case directly in the Supreme Court. So there is a allowing to withdraw and go to the right forum. That's point one. On the merits, the arguments would be, as in when we go to the other forum, and we gave the flavor of that today in the court. Firstly, that this is a matter approximately August 22. He's been summoned twice in all. Both times he has gone there. The offence alleged is Section 7, which is less than 7 years. For less than 7 years, judgments of the Supreme Court say that unless it is shown by the arresting officer, the investigating officer, on paper, that it is imperative to arrest. Without arrest, investigation will be impeded. Arrest is not the option of first choice. It is the last resort which has to be demonstrated. There can be no reason to arrest a person after 8 months, will be the argument in the lower courts, because he cannot be a flight risk. He cannot be interfering with witnesses. All the evidence is documentary. He has cooperated going when he comes. And therefore, there is no reason why you should need to arrest him. You can interrogate him as many times as you like. The larger issue why this might be a special category case is, here is a person in public life. He's holding 18 portfolios. He's about to present the budget. The work of governance is impeded. And there is no reason demonstrated that you cannot do any investigation without arrest.
The CBI seems to suggest that A, he is non-cooperative, and B, that if he is allowed out, he could interfere possibly with the investigation, given the fact that he is such a high-profile individual.
Very important question. Just look at both your questions, and you will find the answers themselves, Rajdeep. You're an intelligent journalist, come person dealing with law, and you'll catch the answers immediately. First point, do you think that the meaning of interrogation is that I must go and admit my guilt? Is there a rule against self-incrimination? So if I go to you as investigating officer and you ask me questions and I say, look, I don't know or I don't want to answer, can you arrest me for that? That means that unless and until I admit my guilt, I'll be arrested. That is totally unknown to law, that rule. Second thing is, why should you need to at all arrest a person who has for now it's just say about almost just under a year, 10 months. There has been no evidence of interference with evidence with physical witnesses. Most of the evidence is documentary. After 10 months or 9 months in March of 2023, how can you possibly say that everything having been frozen, what can you interfere with? Everything is paperwork. So both those are fig leaves of arguments and they will be dealt with. Today, all that has happened is that the top court will not directly interfere. When we come up the ladder, I'm sure the top court, if necessary, will deal with it.
Therefore, let me ask you, Dr. Singhvi, you started off by saying that there are issues concerning the political system as well, that perhaps also need to be looked at. And one of those issues, allegedly, is the fact that the process has become the punishment in this country, that particularly when you're an opposition leader, the ED and the CBI acts in a manner that makes you, in a way, go through an extended jail sentence. Are those arguments that can be made? That's whataboutery. Then what about BJP leaders who get away and AAP or Congress leaders who suffer? You made a similar argument at the Raipur plenary. Does that argument hold? Misuse of agencies cannot be an argument to suggest that the individual is not culpable.
Not at all, Rajdeep, and I would appreciate if you give me a couple of minutes on a very important question you raised. It has nothing to do with Manish Sisodia. I made this point at the Raipur plenary in a speech in Hindi for almost 10 minutes. And I would like to explain this to you for your viewers to understand. It's a very nuanced and very important point. The point is this. 3 facts stand out from 2014. You have published it, newspapers have published it, there have been press conferences. Fact number 1, the total number of cases in sheer numbers where CBI and more importantly ED prosecution has been initiated has jumped 100 times. 90 times, 80 times. So if it's 10 before, it's 1,000 now, post 2015 or 14. Second, 95, if not 98% of that number, the 1,000 number or the 900 number, involves opposition leaders across the political spectrum. Fact number 3, in the rare cases where people who have been in the opposition and have switched and have had cases pending against them, but have switched sides, there is a whole list published by all of you in the journalist field. There has been the BJP laundering machine. Now, this is only fact. What is the legal conclusion from this, which is what I asked for at Raipur? And this has nothing to do with AP or Party B. I said at Raipur that you need, you will take time to come to a political coalition, which is ultimately the best way of dealing with Mr. Modi. And there has been now a call for a Congress-led coalition at Raipur. But before that, you should certainly have a legal coalition, which raises this issue before the court in a properly constituted petition that, look, if you add up these 3 facts, it amounts to creating a non-level, uneven, non-level playing field, which is skewed. And that affects democracy directly. If you start singling out in a discriminatory, selective manner only opposition leaders, that directly affects democracy. And if you affect democracy, you affect the basic structure.
That doesn't though in conclusion, Mr. Singhvi, affect the charge of corruption. My limited point and my final question to you therefore is, it's interesting. I know you've come here as Mr. Sisodia's lawyer, not as a Congress person, but the fact is your own party, particularly in Delhi, is saying that Mr. Sisodia is corrupt, that there is a scam in the liquor policy. So let's be very clear. The charges will have to be dealt with independently of what you say is the atmosphere which has been created of discriminatory treatment.
Rajdeep, you know very well that I am here speaking of something I said in Raipur 2 days before, 1 day before Sisodia was arrested. I am now saying something very different. I am saying that there is valid ground for a legal coalition of the top 10 parties going to the court and saying, look, and this is not about individuals, that if you find evidence of a skewed, discriminatory, selective application of the law against only opposition leaders, then you are skewing democracy itself.
No, but go to the Supreme Court and say that. Why don't you go to the Supreme Court and say that ED and CBI is being misused?
But that is
and
the
give
proposal
examples
I gave at Raipur. If you see my speech, it's in the public domain. That's exactly the proposal I've given at Raipur. That will happen in the due course of time. That is exactly the point I'm making.
You're giving us an important news point. You're saying that you are proposing that the opposition parties now go to the Supreme Court and say that the ED and the CBI are engaging in discriminatory treatment, therefore give us legal protection. Am I correct?
Let's get the facts clear, Rajdeep. I have saying this on Saturday, 2 days before, or 1 day before Sisodia's arrest. I'm not saying it today.
Okay.
Be it anything to do with AAP or Sisodia. See, this is a larger issue that whether the court should look at this phenomenon borne out by your statistics published among others in the Indian Express and elsewhere. We've had press conferences on that, which say that a coalition of the major, if not all, non-BJP, non-NDA parties should go to court, and I would be very happy to be tasked with drafting and putting that across to the court, for the reason that if you apply discriminatorily and selectively this agency set or this rule of various coercive laws against only opposition leaders, you cannot possibly have democracy. It is the antithesis of democracy, and that will affect the basic structure.
Okay, that's a very interesting argument that you're making, Dr. Singhvi.
In fact, I said jocularly at Raipur, Rajdeep, that while the political coalition may take some time to formulate, certainly this legal coalition should happen first. I said so publicly.
Let's leave it there. You've given us possibly what could happen in the future, that the opposition parties now possibly could go to the Supreme Court claiming that enforcement agencies are being misused and discriminatory treatment against them. We'll wait and see whether that flies with the court. But Dr. Singhvi, as always, sharp legal mind, analytical mind. Good to have you on the show. Thanks very much.